Okay, so this video will be if your motor is loose, not from the base of the motor here, but if it's loose from the base of the motor itself. This is going to be a video about how to go about fixing it. So we're going to need some tools. We've got a bunch of tools over here, and sorry for the dirty surface, but it's a working surface. So the first thing we're going to need is a 70mm ratchet that is used to remove the wheels. So 70mm. You could get this in any hardware store. They sell those. So we're gonna need that. Then we're gonna need a 3mm hedge tool. A T-tool would do, or an Allen key will do. The Allen key will be the L. Let me show it to you here. This is the Allen key. Any one of those will do. I prefer the T-tool because it's easier. I'll show you where we're gonna use that. Then we're gonna need a C-clip tool. These I'll put the link for, all these tools I'll put the link for where you can find them and get them. This is like $7. This is for the C-clip. It removes C-clips. When you squeeze, it will help you remove the C-clips. Then we need a 4mm head tool. Same thing, you could use the Allen key, or if you have an impact driver like this one, you could use the 4mm. Again, I'll post links to all of that. Then for the motor itself, we need to remove a couple of screws. Those screws are Torx keys. So this is a T20 tool. This is for the impact driver, or you could use the Allen key also to remove those. The next thing you will need will be loctite, red loctite, and blue loctite. You know how it goes. One is permanent, the other one is removable. So we're gonna start doing this and show you step by step what to do. Ryan's gonna help us do that because, as you can see, my thing's not good. So first step will be to remove the wheel, the tire. Just removing the tire, nice and neat. Once the tire is removed, just put the lock nut somewhere where you don't lose it. As you hear that, that is the spacer. Make sure the spacer goes right here, this spacer. When you remove the tire, the spacer tends to get stuck over there. So make sure that when you remove it, it will be there. So it tends to get stuck like that. Just be careful when doing it. So then, as you can see, you're gonna have the spacer, put it on the side, put it on your tire so you don't lose it. And then we have this other part. This is called the hub plate. This thing just slides up and down. As you can see, there's two set of holes. The fingers goes into the little holes. Make sure they fit. Try to rotate it. Once you put it in, it's locked. Now, the wrong way to do it is, it's put it like that, rotate it out. That's the wrong way to do it. The fingers needs to go into the small hole, and that will be that. So that's the correct way to do it. Now we're gonna use the 3mm T-tool, which will be this guy, to remove these screws. It's gonna be seat screws. So those screws are just holding the cover of the gear drive. You want to remove them completely, but when you tighten it back, don't overdo it. Just put it firm, and that should do the trick. Make sure you have enough space to work, because otherwise it gets tight. Or just makes room for where to work. So now try to remove the whole thing at once. Sometimes the threads are not coming off completely, so you will need to turn a couple of times so the whole thing will slide out. You see how he wiggle it? So it wiggles because the helical won't let it come straight. Now something to have to check here. Make sure you see the whole assembly. You're gonna take it apart and make sure that the gasket it's in place. Just you need to push it just a little bit, see, so the thread can take it. So, and this is a washer here that you want to make sure that goes there. It goes into the shaft. So that's a separator between the gear drive and the end of the shaft. That way the bearing can actually move freely. You could leave it there. That's the best way to leave it. And then you put this back all as one piece. Just slide that to the side. Make sure not to take it apart. And if you take it apart, just make sure to look how it goes. Now, here's what we need to do. I'm gonna clean the grease so you can see it. So what we're gonna do, we need to remove this C-clip and we need to slide the gear out. It's simple as that. C-clip remove and gear out. So for that, we're gonna use the C-clip tool. Sometimes can be hard to remove the C-clip, but if your C-clip tool is good, you should be able to remove it easily. See? Easy peasy. Make sure you don't widen the C-clip too much. Anyway, if we send you parts, then what you're gonna do, every C-clip you take out, just throw it away. We will send you enough so you can replace it. That way you'll have new. Yeah, put that. This is a new C-clip versus a used C-clip. Can you put it tip to tip so they can see? All right, so as you can see, one is open, the other one is new. So this is the way you want to see them. So when putting it back, don't open it too much. Just open it enough that you could slide the C-clip into the shaft. So this one has to be discarded, and we're gonna keep this one. Okay, so let's continue. Next step will be to remove the gear. So the gear just slides off. Now there's a key here. You need to make sure you keep this key. Well, now we're gonna take it off. Don't lose it. Put it right next to your gear. All right. So now you see this thing over here. Let me use something to show you. This is a thrust bearing. This is a 3-piece bearing. For now, we're gonna leave it there because we're gonna remove these screws, and then we're gonna show you that. But for now, just remove these screws. We're gonna use the 4mm Allen key for that. There you go. That'll be kind of clockwise to remove it. All right. Make sure to have paper towel to clean your hands because it's gonna get greasy. See when I can sneak peek. One thing to have in mind is when you remove the last screw, the motor can fall. So be sure to just hold it in place with the other hand. Paper towels. So as you can see, it's holding the motor so it doesn't fall when you take out the screw. Boom. And sometimes the thrust bearing is in 3 pieces, and one of the pieces like to stay stuck in there. So go from the top and push it off. That's it. As you can see on the motors, the washer has a track. Can you flip it the other side? It has a flat side, and then flip it again, and it has a track. So the thrust bearing goes in the middle of the 2 tracks. This is the way it goes. That's it. Anyway, now what we need to remove are these 4 screws with the Torx key. For this, we can use the Allen key with the Torx T20 tool, or we could use the power drill. I prefer to use the impact driver at a high torque, but I just throttle it really slow that way. So now I'll do this. Can you show that back again where the motor was so they could see? The motors will be like this, and you wanna cut the zip ties that are gonna be here holding the motor in this little hole, so you could free the wire. And now you're gonna take the motor around and put it down, so there's enough room, so that way you don't have to disconnect the motor or anything. So we can remove this thrust bearing from the top, and we can remove, there's a spacer there. Don't worry, I will tell you all the steps backwards when you put it back together. So now the motor is becoming loose, not from this plate. As you can see, it has blue loctite. They come loose from those Torx screws. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna put red loctite into the thread of those screws. So for that, we're gonna remove the screws and move this to the side, clean the thread, and then put loctite. So as you can see, we're gonna remove, these are the screws that we need to actually remove, and use Loctite to fit. We can even send you new screws, but we're gonna show you with the old ones so you can see what is the process of cleaning them and cleaning the threads, and then using red Loctite inside to fit it. So we're gonna go now to remove the screws. So this is a T20 Torx key, but we're gonna use the impact driver because it's easier. Just make sure you throttle it slowly so you don't damage the screw, and then the motor will mess up. So just put it down, make sure everything's straight, then you to the bottom, and then go slowly. See? It's gonna come out easily. You will have some Loctite debris, as you can see in there, but that we're gonna clean all of that. Just take it out. Take them all out. After all the screws are out, then this plate on the motor will come off. Sometimes it's a little tight, so make sure to wiggle it a little bit. Show the plate, you see the plate comes off. Now you could use anything to clean. So now you see here, we have acetone that we're gonna use to clean the top surface. I just take a little piece of paper towel and just make a little square. Now we're gonna use the same screw to clean the surface. You see the thread, just screw it in there, and you will use it to clean it. Just spin it there as much as you want to. Either way, just to clean the surface of the metal. Just repeat this step for each hole. We want just to clean as much as we can. That way, when we come back with the Loctite, everything will be able to be better. Alright. make sure to destroy that Loctite and take it off. You could blow it. So now we're also gonna use the thread of the screw to clean the thread of the holes. Give me a second to show something. These motors have 4 M4 screws hole, and they have these little ones. These are M3. So you wanna make sure that you just clean the 4, right? So we're gonna use, we could use the drill. Just make sure not to go too deep because there's wires inside. All we need to do is just clean the thread a little bit, and that's it. When engaging, make sure not to damage the thread. Go slowly and make sure you're into the thread. That's it, just a little bit, and that's enough. So go through each hole and make sure, well, first capture the thread with the fingers. Once the screw goes a little bit inwards, then you could use the drill. Do not engage the thread with the drills because you can damage the thread, and then that will be that for that motor. See, once it's in, then use the drill just to clean it. Just for convenience, just clean the threads a little bit. Okay. And then repeat for the other 2. Remember not to go too deep, just enough to clean the threads. Let's see if we get a better angle, that's good. Again, just enough to clean the thread. You don't have to go all the way in. So now, let me show the paper. So what we do, with 1 little square of paper towel, we do something like this. Just roll it up and then use acetone. And now what we're gonna do, we're gonna put it into the holes just to chemically clean the holes. That way the red Loctite will have better adhesion. You should to get, acetone in there and get the threads clean. So we're just chemically cleaning it now. That will have better adhesion for the red Loctite. Now on the screws, oh yeah, we want to clean here too. Wherever you can clean, just clean all the holes with acetone. Make sure everything is nice and clean. Clean it as best as you can. It's making sure it's clean. So now we can use also on the screws, we can use some acetone. So you can submerge it in acetone, or if we say new screws, then you can use new screws. Just make sure all the threads are clean, and the Loctite should come pretty easy. Just come off easily. So just clean all the screws one by one with the acetone, just to make sure that the red Loctite has proper adhesion to the metal surface, to the metal threads. So acetone you can find in the pharmacist nail polish remover, 100% acetone, that should be good. So now what we're gonna do, now we're gonna put red Loctite in each one of those 4 threads. Be generous with the Loctite. Make sure you put a good amount in there. It doesn't have to be, well, make sure you put a good amount because you don't want to be doing this again. Go into the thread. See, that's it. Make sure it's into the thread, not just over the threads. All right. So now you're gonna put the plate, just slide it back in. Make sure to align the holes. Align the holes, you can see the holes in there. And now we're gonna put Loctite also to the screw. Let me see, make sure it goes all around the thread. You could use a thread, put a little bit more. Just be generous with that. Yeah, that's it. Now put it in there. And repeat the process of putting thread locker on all the threads. I like to do that. I just dip one, and then with the other screws, I just gonna go around. That way that everything gets really wet in between the threads, and it's pretty good. All right. So now it's good to use, instead of using the drill right away, it's good to use the head ski. We got this head ski just to make sure you're grabbing the thread properly, because the drill, you could damage the thread. You don't want to do that. You want to do it by hand so it goes in. Once it goes in a little bit, now you know you're into the threads, so that is good. You could do this whole step by hand. Even at the end, just tighten it firmly. But we're gonna use the drill. Now with the drill, you gotta be really careful to throttle it slowly. You wanna set up your torque to match. So in this case, it's 3 LED dots. That'll be matched, and we're gonna throttle it super slow so we get at least 1 or 2 knocks impact in the thing. If you have gloves, you use gloves to hold the motor in place, or use a rack to just hold it in place so you can hold it tightly. So we're gonna go in, make sure the drill bit is straight, go in slowly. You see, 1, 2. 1, 2 on each one. Throttling slowly. Hear that. 1, 2. That's it. Then go again to the other side. 1, 2. What you don't want to do is overdo the impact, because you could damage the head, and how then the motor will be damaged. So all you want to do is throttle it slowly, and slowly, and when it gets down, 1, 2. So now if you want, you can use the head ski to test. Just grab it and give it a little tug to see if it's firm, which I think it will be. That's it. See, one tug in a good impact driver setting is good. That's enough. Make sure everything is tight as hard as you can on this one without damaging it. All right, so basically that's it. Now this red Loctite will cure like in 24 hours, so you want to give it at least the rest of the day, and then you want to put the motor back and give it the rest of the day. Do not use the board right away. That way it will have time to cure. And that's it. That's how you fix your motor. Make sure to clean everything and follow the next step. All right. So now that we put red Loctite into the thread of these 4 Torx screws, we're gonna put it back, so you see the whole process how it goes. So the first thing to do will be to put blue Loctite into those threads. We're gonna do that. Use a thin metal something in order to properly make sure to put enough Loctite into the thread, because again, you don't want to come in here and have to fix. So make sure it goes, you see this, that the threads itself, they have a lot of Loctite, so that's why you want to do it. Be generous with it. Okay, once we got that, then we're gonna put the things back together. So now we have a spacer, which is this thick spacer here, that goes on top of the C-clip of the motor. That's the sequence 1. Now you got the thrust bearing. Can you show the thrust bearing sideways? It's a sandwich, you see? Steel piece with a track, and then the bearing goes inside. So the track of this one's gonna be up. The bearing is gonna be with the open side towards the top, and then the track is gonna be down here. All right. So now, since we didn't remove the screws here, just put the same screws and put it back. For that, you're gonna need the 4mm head tool over there. Remember to loop the motor around. Make sure that the wires, like if you look at like this, the motor wires have to come on the top. So make sure that is that. Just put it there. Make sure that the thrust bearing goes in the same direction. And now just align the holes and use the head key, the 4mm head key too, just to do the screwing it in. You could be tempted of let go of the motor, but you want to make sure you hold the motor until you put at least the 4 screws in. There's the threads on all of them. You see, the thing is, give me a second to show them. These at an angle, so you want to hold it straight. That way you could go into the thread straight. Once the 4 screws are taken, make sure not to strip the screws. You need to make sure it goes into the thread. Once you got it there, it's just screwing it in. It should be able to go in easily. Yeah. Let me see, let me feel it. Because they should be able to go in. Oh well. Since there was blue Loctite, that's why it feels a little bit rough. So you should be able to do it with a small one. Because the best way to damage the screws is by over leveraging it and not realizing that you're going into the wrong thread. So that's it. Just finish doing it, Ryan, there. So it's good to hold it. Okay, one at a time. Like if you have an impact driver, you could use a 4mm tool to just put it in. Make sure you don't damage the threads, and make sure you don't tighten it with this. This has to be tightened by hand. Just throttle it really slow. Don't use that much power. This is just for convenience. That's it. Just one. Don't go woo. Just slowly throttle it. Use your fingers slowly. Okay, now go back to the hand tool and just tighten it with enough force, like firm. You see, he's using just 2 fingers like that. Maybe the fingers are 2 inches apart. That way you don't over torque and then that strip the motor. Just make it firm. Don't go crazy. Just make it firm. Let me see how can I see. Okay. Just make it firm. Put it in there and make it firm, and then tap little by little the rest. Tap it again, just a tiny bit. Just a bit. See? 2 fingers, that should be more than enough. 2 fingers like that should be more than enough. I cannot stress it enough. Do not over tighten. Do not over leverage. So don't use the whole length of the Allen key to tighten it. Anyway, now we're gonna look. This is good. Now we're gonna make sure that our thrust bearing looks like this. So now what we're gonna put the head key into the slot. Well, the key into the slot there. And now we're gonna use the gear, put it in, make sure it aligns, and it goes all the way down. Now we're gonna put the C-clip. Again, you're gonna open, it's better if you position the C-clip right here onto the tip, and now open it just enough to slide it in. Do not over open it, that's it. Just open it enough. Make sure you push it in. Now you could use a hex key just to push it in, all the way in. You can push it all around. That's it, you hear the click. Once you hear that click, it just goes in. You can see it there, that's simple as that. All right, so now we need to put the cover back. So the cover, if you put it sideways, make sure that the gasket is where it should be. You see the screws are going through the gasket. Make sure you don't have grease on this side of the gasket. That your B-ring is installed. And yeah, so we're just gonna slide it in. Now, you see this is a helical gear. So you're gonna have to put it, oh, one more thing. Make sure that this washer is there. We need that. So grab it, put it in, slide it. Now wiggle it a little bit so it goes in, and that should be that. Make sure that the rubber gasket is aligned. Sometimes it will misalign, but make sure it's aligned, and then use by hand the 3mm heads to make sure you don't damage the gasket. Just feel it. Just make sure that the thread goes into each hole, and then go around putting all the threads. That way if the gasket needs to wiggle and move, it can be done. Don't go all the way down, just make sure that the threads are going in. That way, if you go all the way down, you're gonna bite the gasket, and the gasket will not be able to slide and fit what it needs to fit. Once you have it all, then you could go down and tighten it. Remember, it needs to be firm, not super tight, just firm. Yeah, there we go, just firm. There we go. So make sure all of them are firm. So now what we got? Good. Now make sure that the B-ring is like this. The face with the numbers goes towards the top, and it's just flat like that. Now we're gonna use this spacer and put it there. Yeah. Now we're gonna use this plate. Again, make sure that the fingers goes into the holes, and rotate to make sure that you're in the right place. Now put the wheel, slide it in, do that again, lift it up and turn it. So the things are gonna fit into the, you hear cack, into the hub plate. That's that, and now use the nut to put it back. Again, you can just rotate it, or you can do one full loop and ratchet just at the end. I'll leave this one for you guys to decide what to do. Now when you get to the bottom and you tighten it, you're gonna tighten just a little bit and then go back just an eighth of a turn, just a tiny bit. Just go in and then back, just that's it. Just release the pressure. So basically that's it. Now what will you need to do? Give it some time for the Loctite to cure. So it's gonna take at least 24 hours to be super solid. So you wanna do that. And then you wanna use the zip ties to retie your motor wires to this hole. Just put it there and retie it. And remember, none of these will move, so all this is okay. Cool, so basically that's it. That's how you fix the motor. Give it 24 hours for the strut locker to actually dry, and that will be that. All right, thank you for being with us.